Good morning, guys. Well, is it a good morning? I don't think it is a good morning. It's after another disastrous weekend for Rangers. Another defeat, another dismal performance, and still the vegan clown lives on to fight another day. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Russell Martin. The guy is out of his depth. The guy is hopeless, clueless, useless, just an absolute buffoon of an arrogant, narcissistic waste of space, and he needs to be sacked ASAP. Russell Martin, I don't know if you watch social media, and if you actually see this video, Russell, nobody wants you here. We don't want you here. We all absolutely despise you with a passion. Fuck off back down south where you probably wanted a little bit more, because you really aren't wanted here. No one likes you. You're hated. You're an absolutely useless waste of space. Pathetic, moronic, just shitbag. Get out of our club now. Anyway, look, one of the things that's kind of been cited as a reason, not only just the Russell Martins factor, but also the whole situation around the recruitment at Rangers, has been cited, obviously, has been a reason why not only we've underachieved this year so far, but we've underachieved in general across the seasons. It has been our pretty dreadful recruitment policy. Ali McCoist, Rangers legend Ali McCoist, speaking on TalkSport this morning, has absolutely slammed Rangers recruitment this summer, and has slammed recruitment in general at the club. Ali, obviously, who is an absolute Rangers legend, a man who is one of my favourite all-time players, a guy who, when Ali speaks, you've got to listen to him. This is a guy, is someone who should command ultimate respect when talking about his former club. And he was absolutely scathing on the recruitment. This was on TalkSport this morning. He said that the recruitment and transfer policy at Rangers is unacceptable. Pretty much, I think, spot on now. Pretty much spot on. He said Rangers, are just dreadful in terms of what they've done in the market. Now, obviously, this summer we've spent some pretty serious money on the likes of Yusuf Chimiti, who the jury is very firmly out on, a £9 to £10 million player who finds goal scoring a challenge. Considering he's a striker, that's a little worrying. Oliver Antman, who shone in his debut and looked amazing, and since then has looked like a poor man's Ted McGinn. Thelwell, who's been average. Bojan Miovski, who, I don't think judge Bojan. He's been fed on scraps. We know this is a guy who can score goals in the Premier League. Emmanuel Fernandez, who has not played at all, hardly featured at all, hardly been used, and yet Nasajiga looks like a rabbit caught in the headlights. John Suter is struggling for form. Obviously, too early to cast any comments on Derek Cornelius, who we've also signed on loan. But there you go. JD Gassama, I think, is a good signing, a very, very good footballer, but someone who has kind of, I think, suffered from the fact that Russell Martin doesn't know how to use him, doesn't know how to get the best out of him, that Russell Martin is tactically naive and tactically stupid. But we failed to win any of our first 5 league games. We failed to impress. The last domestic victory was over Alloa, for God's sake. Knocked out the Champions League, and things do not look good at all. Now, McCoist, obviously, is not impressed with what we've done this summer. He said that there are other players that the club should have spent money on. There's other players that we should have brought in. He said this. He said, Rangers have spent an awful lot of money this summer. They've brought a lot of money in too. You look at the Igman going for 10 million, Hiefte's away, Dessers is away, Yilmaz proper. So they've probably brought in around £25 million, which, I think pretty much offsets what we've spent. He says, this is the problem. They've spent a lot of money too. Chimiti for 10 million, who needs to be given a chance. It's very difficult to gauge. You spend 4 million on Ant-Man, Asgard another 3.5 million, and this one I can't believe, 4.5 million on Oscar Cortez, then put him out on loan. That is just unacceptable. I mean, I think that was kind of a millstone that we had to kind of deal with, because Coppen had already agreed that. But to pay £4.5 million for a winger, and then not even try and use him this season, not even try and get him in the team, I think just shows absolutely dreadful management by Russell Martin, recruitment, and everything from in general. So I think, the Oscar Cortez debacle, I don't think gets enough criticism, anywhere near enough criticism. he said this: you spent 9 to 10 million on Chimiti, who's a gamble. I would have went with and got Seamer and Cherney, those two players you know can perform at Rangers. They know the league, they know the club, instead of taking another gamble. I've got to say, if you look at the money that Seamer and Cherney have moved for, it'd be far better spent. That Chimiti money would have been far better spent on getting Seamer and Cherney. Seamer and Cherney are guys that we know can do it at Rangers, that have done it at Rangers, that have scored double-digit goals, double-digit assists, over their time at the club. So, to me, Ali is spot on with this. Why would you not go and get Seamer and Cherney, who we know can play, who we know are fantastically talented footballers? I mean, Abdallah Seamer, I love Abdallah Seamer. I think he's an absolute superstar. Yes, his injury record is not great, but, that's something hopefully we can work on. But to go and spend £9-10 million on a lad who doesn't score goals or who struggles to score goals. People. I've heard people try to defend this move and say, you don't come through the sporting academy if you're not a decent player. Fabio Silva is what I'm going to say to you on that one. There's a lot of players who've come through those Portuguese academies that have gone on to be utter disasters. So, Chimiti's goal record is disgusting. It's a disgrace. And to pay 9 to 10 million for him when you could have had Seamer and Cherney, to me, makes zero sense. Really does. He also brought in the example of Lawrence Shankland, someone who was obviously branded as too immobile and too not quick enough and too old to fit into the Rangers system. I mean, Shankland, again, is a player who knows the Scottish SPL, who knows how to score goals in this league. And I think, bring him in. He's more successful than Chimiti. He's more successful than Neo. I think, pair him even with Bojan Miovski, and you've got a hell of a pair there. Because, one thing that Shankland can do, which I think is a little bit overlooked, is drop off and play more that sort of 10 role. That he did very well for Hearts last season. So I think, Shankland, who would have been free, and people will say, oh, is this Shankland boring, Shankland this, Shankland that. He scored 2 against us on Saturday. He was the best striker on the pitch on Saturday. He outplayed us on Saturday. He'll score more goals than Miovski this season. He'll score more goals than Chimiti this season. Guarantee you that. To me, not signing Shankland was a huge, huge mistake. But Ali went on to say, one of my concerns with Rangers at this point in time is that things are not going well and supporters can make that place a very difficult place to play. I'm looking at the makeup of the squad and I'm not quite sure they can handle it. They were well beaten by a well-organised Hearts team. The irony is Lawrence Shankland, who Rangers should have got 18 months ago, scored 2 goals, and I believe we would have won them the league. Correct. We go out when Philippe Clement is top of the league. We sign Shankland that January. We kick on to win the league because he doesn't miss those sitters that Cyril the Donkey Dessers misses in those other games. Look, I'm not taking anything away from Hearts at all. Hearts were outstanding, absolutely outstanding yesterday. But what I do want to say is this. This is a situation that Ali is right in. The recruitment is not right. The wrong type of players have been brought in. The players that we could have had, the players that we could have brought in, and I know it's all could have, would have, should have, but players who would have substantially improved this side and I think would have given us a much better chance of actually being successful this season. Too many mistakes are being made on the recruitment front, and I don't think, myself, that Kevin Thelwell is the right man for the job. Now, people say, oh, he kept Everton up when they were a disaster. Look at Everton now. Is it any strange relation that if he did such a good job, why is it the first thing Brian Friedkin, who is the new chairman of Everton, does is get rid of him and bring in someone else who then goes on to recruit, the likes of Jack Grealish, for example, Keenan Dewsbury Hall, who's got Everton playing, unfortunately, playing a lot better this season. Everton are going to finish top 10 this season in the Premier League. They're not going to be haunted by relegation as they were every season when Kevin Thelwell was their sporting director. A guy who spunked millions of pounds on very average footballers. Thelwell paid 15 million for Chimiti, for fuck's sake. Let's get our head around this. And also reports as well that, that he seems to be pinning his colours firmly to the Russell Martin mast as well, and saying that if Martin is sacked, he will go too. Well, good riddance, mate. You're shit. You're not very good at your job. Get out of our football club. But, the situation is what it is, and I honestly don't get it. I honestly don't get how, they get this badly wrong when, You know, you've got people who are in the know, people, you know, genuine football people like Ali McCoist, like Graham Souness, basically telling you, get this player, get that player. They're much more successful. They're better. And then those players go on to be successes at other clubs. It just beggars belief. It absolutely beggars belief. And Ali's right to slam the recruitment policy. He's 100% spot on with the criticism that he's given the club over this, you know, this situation. And I find the whole shit around, you know, the whole shit around this very, very disturbing. Now, you know, there's all sorts of rumours and reports out there, isn't there? You know, as regards the future of Russell Martin and what's going on with that. You know, there really is. You know, there's the reports around this late night Zoom call between Andrew Kavanagh and Patrick Stewart and Kevin Thelwell, which, you know, just again, I don't understand. You know, that, you know, they've come out and said that, you know, Stewart and Thelwell have both come out and said that if Martin's sacked, they can't continue in their roles. Good. Get rid of them. I mean, personally, I hate Patrick Stewart. I think he's the worst CEO in this club's history. He really genuinely is. He's genuinely a fan-hating CEO. He's an Aberdeen fan, for fuck's sake. I mean, let's face it, and he came from one of the worst-run football clubs in the world. So for me, if Martin goes, please take Thelwell and Stewart with you. I don't think it's any great loss. I don't think it's any great loss. But Ali is spot on with what he says. 100% spot on. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.